Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. You're here with DanK and my friend Raistlin
Raistlin on Facebook. If you go to find me at Facebook Friends and ask for a friend request, then I'll put you on the request and put you in the secret group that gets you into the cannabis community that a lot of people don't know about.
That's right, and he's traveled quite a bit, living in Southern California and coming up here and back and forth. So anyway, we wanted to talk about the, oh yes, I want to jump in real quick and talk about our YouTube. We got some great reactions from Uncle Pat's Comfort Sauce when he was on, and people are reacting to his comfort sauce.
Oh, yes.
Raistlin, you tried that, and a big fan, so he's got a great product there. So anyway, wish him all the best, and I'm sure we'll be back on another show.
Especially with those homemade French fries you showed me over there at that little restaurant.
Oh yeah, yeah, that sauce with some fresh potato French fries. Now that's some pretty good chow. And also, we want to give a quick shout out to Terpene Station for letting us have our normal meeting there last week. And great people, and that's a great dispensary. So stop in and say hi. They're right there on, of course I don't have their address like I should, but they're behind, and of course I can't remember the name of the bar that they're around the corner from either.
Actually, they're right there on River Road.
Yeah, they're lower into River Road.
Yeah.
You know where they are. So anyway, just want to give out a shout and thanks for them for that. So here's a story that'll really get your hackles up, and it sure did me. National Cannabis Industry Association drops Tommy Chong as a spokesman. Iconic stoner, this is written by Steve Elliott on the Hemp News, the 31st of March. Iconic stoner Tommy Chong has been dropped as a spokesman by pro-marijuana lobbying group, the National Cannabis Industry Association. According to NCIA Executive Director Aaron Smith, the pot lobby is tired of the Cheech and Chong stoner jokes and wants to be taken seriously in Congress, reports Burgess Everett at Politico. The cannabis industry reportedly wants to move past the stoner stereotypes presented by Chong as it tries to remake itself as a, quote, serious suits segment, unquote, of the economy. Smith, in a Monday email sent to Chong's representatives and allies, said that after feedback from, quote, allied members of Congress, unquote, the group decided Chong wasn't its best representative in D.C., particularly when it comes to influencing right-wing lawmakers. Having Tommy out in D.C. for the NCIA lobby days will detract from the overall message we aim for with the event, which is that cannabis business people are regular professionals and relatable to the generally conservative members of Congress we are looking to appeal to, Smith wrote. We are here to break stoner stereotypes rather than reinforce them. The NCI seemed especially worried about a recent YouTube video starring Chong that shows him toking weed in a car, nodding off at the wheel, and using a Tommy Chong's smoke swipe to get rid of the pot smell on his clothing before meeting with a parole officer. This was released less than a week ago and only intensifies my previous concern, Smith wrote in the email. This sort of message is exactly the opposite of what we are trying to do with our efforts to legitimize the industry by showing it in a positive and responsible light. Some NCIA members were unhappy with the group's treatment of Chong. Pete O'Neill, who runs the CNC Cannabis Company in Seattle, said he'd dropped his membership with the NCIA because of the group's disrespect of Chong. O'Neill said he's looking for a new lobbyist to represent him. Maybe there's a reason marijuana is still illegal, O'Neill said. Maybe we don't have the right guys in D.C. In a couple of years, as we mature as an industry, we'll get better representation in D.C., more professional. We pulled our membership, and I'm not going, O'Neill said of NCIA's planned lobby days in April. We're looking for a good lobbyist.
Imagine me going up there.
Yeah. Chong's spokesman on Tuesday tried to downplay the controversy. We do not want to escalate this event in any manner, the spokesman said. NCIA made a decision based on their understanding of the landscape along with their goals and objectives for the event. The spokesman said, "We all want the same thing here, and we do not want to cause or be part of any ripples in our allied goal. The NCIA still hopes to work with Chong in the future," said NCIA Deputy Director Taylor West, but members worried that Chong's prominent stature would be a distraction from their main goal of meeting with congressional staffers and lawmakers with the message that people in this industry just want it to be treated fairly. When we talked about the possibility of having Tommy there, it seems like a celebrity distracts from that, West said. As soon as you have a celebrity in the orbit, stories about the event are going to be focused on the celebrity. The NCIA is backing a bill that would loosen banking laws that would make it hard for legal dispensaries to get financial services, and would also allow states that have legalized medical marijuana to operate their systems without running afoul of federal enforcement. According to current federal policy, there are no legitimate medical uses for cannabis. NCIA spent $80,000 on congressional lobbying in 2014, up significantly from the $50,000 total it spent from 2011 to 2013. The group's members are set to descend on Capitol Hill for a lobbying blitz beginning April 27th. And anyway, back to, it sounded to me like they're just trying to save face in this one article, in this one part of the deal here. Well, I went on, I also thought about this, and I wrote that I believe this is another example of big buck, which is business, involvement in the cannabis issue. Don't forget the Measure 91, which was planned stealth. Nobody knew what was happening there. They didn't meet with anybody. They just popped up with it. Campaign they didn't show a single marijuana leaf in any of their campaign materials. That always bothered me. I, for one, am not ashamed of the marijuana leaf, and I think actually I'm just the opposite. So, anyway, let's not be ashamed of the marijuana leaf and boycott these groups that want to get rid of that image. You know?
Don't be ashamed of the name cannabis either. C-A-N-N-A-B-I-S. For those people that don't know how to spell it, that like to use a slang word for it, it's actually a plant called cannabis.
And we got a short story here that came out of Jackson County, March 26th. This is on KOBI5.com. You want to read that for us?
Okay, it's Jackson County, Oregon. Jackson County will not collect a marijuana tax when the drug becomes legal in July. Let me repeat that. Jackson County will not collect a marijuana tax when the drug becomes legal in July, despite the board and voters passing an ordinance to do so. So you see, things can go over the vote. So, you know, sometimes I wonder where things stand. During a special election this May, the majority voted in favor of allowing county leaders to impose a tax up to 25% affecting producers and sellers of medical and recreational marijuana. Thursday, March 26, commissioners agreed to set that tax rate at 0 until the OLCC and state lawmakers hash out the details. Notice how it says tax rate at 0 until. That's until the OLCC and state lawmakers hash out the details. So there still might be a tax. So so read between the lines, people. Commissioners say Jackson County has become a spectacle across the state and country as the only county to tax both medical and recreational marijuana. So it's still in the mix. They're just waiting to see what happens after this.
Yeah, so yeah, it's hard to say how it's all going to play out. The people I'm talking to that are into this very, really following it closely and working in it are telling me that we may not know how this whole thing's going to settle until October. So it's really wide open now and going wild. I got another quick story here, and this is great. This is a little bit dated, but it's still relevant, and so I definitely wanted to put it up. This was from June 11, 2012. This was at the website clear-uk.org. Professor Lester Grinspoon on exaggerated claims about cannabis and cancer. Subtitled, "Cannabis is a Wonderful Thing." There is overwhelming evidence of its efficiency in treating a wide range of medical conditions, and, very importantly, of its safety and lack of significant side effects. There is also some very exciting animal and in vitro research work on cannabinoids as treatment for cancer. In fact, there is some very convincing medical evidence of the successful use of cannabis oil on skin cancer and some extraordinary anecdotal evidence about its use for cancer and other life-threatening conditions. Rick Simpson, Phoenix Tears, the stories are all over the internet. There is hard evidence that it offers some protection against the cancer-causing effects of tobacco. But the claim that cannabis cures cancer is just not true. There is no scientific evidence that supports it, and when we take such wild and exaggerated claims, we cause as much damage to the cause as the opposite extreme of reefer madness.
Or like when
Over the weekend, probably the most eminent advocate of cannabis as medicine, Professor Lister Grinspoon, laid out the facts. I know this will be disappointing to many, but it is the truth that counts, and we will do better if we resist the urge to overstate our case. Professor Grinspoon said, "There is little doubt that cannabis now may play some non-curative roles in the treatment of this disease or diseases because it is often useful to cancer patients who suffer from nausea and anorexia, depression, anxiety, pain, and insomnia. However, while there is growing evidence from animal studies that it may shrink tumor cells and cause other promising salutary effects in some cancers, there is no present evidence that it cures any of the many different types of cancer. I think the day will come when it or some cannabinoid derivatives will be demonstrated to have cancer curative powers. But in the meantime, we must be very cautious about what we promise these patients." So, even though this is 2 years old, it's still coming from a very well-respected cannabis activist and an expert. So that's why I wanted to bring it out. And
well, here's the thing. That's how they say from animal studies, but I prefer human because I know I'm not an animal, and I know there's a lot of patients out there that aren't animals, and prefer to know a little about human studies and doctors actually performing cannabis research on humans now instead of bringing up the animals, because you have a lot of animal activists out there that don't like the testing of animals when it can cause them harm when they should be testing on us since it's for the human patients. But now I see on posts once in a while that it could be good for dogs and cats as well.
True. Yeah, and as I understand it, the government hasn't allowed, testing humans. So anyway, now the things are all changing, so hopefully we'll find out and get some medical facts on that. They actually do some real studies and quit calling it, quit calling it anecdotal. So anyway, we're going to get out of here and take a break. We just about overworked ourselves, so we got to take a break and relax a little bit and kick back in the back room. But we're going to come back and we'll talk some more about news stories and things that are happening in the cannabis world. So we'll be right back.
President Obama, stop the drug wars, the drama, arrested me for a G of Jane, comma Mary.
Take that money for the jail cells, keep it from the cartels. Don't help a drug dealer millionaire, tax weed and give a brother health care.
It's cannabis, miracle medicine that gives me bliss. Used to making rope and giving somebody hope, that sounds familiar. Be the candidate we thought you were.
Norm to the L.org.
National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Norm to the L.org.
Go to the website and help out the cause.
Welcome back. You made the second half of the Eugene Cannabis TV show. This is episode 570. 570, can you believe that? That's a lot of episodes, and just been having a ball doing it. Welcome. You're always welcome to come down to the studio. It's that's the Community TV 29 Studios behind Sheldon High School. Monday nights at 7:30. Come on by. And we can be on the show. You don't have to be on the show. You can just watch how we make the show. Or even better yet, jump right in and run a camera. It's not really rocket science. Anyways, we have a lot of fun. That's where I started. I started behind the camera and ended up in front of the camera. So that can happen to you too if you want to. So anyway, we wanted to throw out a real line to a great little place that we've been going to, and that's called the Kush
Cafe. Right there on, right past First on
Yeah,
Railroad Avenue, and it's C-U-S-H. It's like a house, and in the front it's like
C-U-S-H. I thought it was K-U-S-H.
So that, but it's actually C-U because they don't want people to think it's about cannabis and stuff like that.
So anyway, yeah, it's Kush, and it's a great place to get a cup of coffee and or espresso and grab a sandwich.
And they got a place, a patio that you smoke at, and a big lounge in the back. They do poetry on Tuesday nights. They got bands on Wednesdays, I think. But they have a lot of stuff in the back. The whole bottom part of the house is part of the Kush Cafe.
That's very near Polk, North Polk, where you turn off of Railroad Boulevard to go to where the Hemp Fest will be, down at the end of the street. So anyway, I thought we mentioned that. If you want to check the place out. And we want to, another thing is, of course, Eugene Cannabis TV, we do have some needs. We need some computer stuff, especially a hard drive. We could really use a hard drive, the standard, big one. And by big, I mean full size, and also, but 1 terabyte or even more would be great. So if you could help us out with that, that would be incredible. And of course, we always use some crew. We're always short-handed. And guests. We're always looking for guests. Come on and talk about your cannabis story. Tell your story about cannabis and what it means to you. And of course, in funds. We always use some funds for picking up this, miscellaneous stuff. We like to say we'll accept green or green.
Or come in on Thursday for our staff.
No. So anyway, okay, so let me get into the story here. This is Dope Without Borders. And this was in the Willamette Weekly. Written by Aaron Mesh, and this is dated the March 11, 2015. Big weed is coming. This is a subtitle. Big weed is coming unless Salem erects a fence at the state line. Megan and Matt Wallstatter often argue about who should cash in on legal weed in Oregon. The Wallstatters run Pure Green Gardens, a Portland medical marijuana grow with a dispensary in the Hollywood neighborhood. The couple wants to start growing and selling recreational dope when sales become legal next year. Matt thinks out-of-state investors should be allowed to come in and grab a share of the business. Megan thinks they should be kept out. Right now, she says, there is sweet little window in time where it can be from Oregon, for Oregon, by Oregon. The debate over who gets to sell pot in Oregon is about to heat up, with millions of dollars at stake and well-funded lobbyists seeking to protect the edge outside investors now have. Measure 91, approved by voters in November, put no restrictions on outsiders getting into the legal marijuana business. 2 other states that passed similar measures, Colorado and Washington, both set residency requirements for people to grow, sell, or invest in dope. That makes Oregon alluring for companies hoping to build multi-state marijuana empires. Local growers fear large out-of-state weed companies would open factory farms and chain stores, pulling a Walmart by scaling their businesses so large that small growers can't compete. Some lawmakers are drafting legislation to put a 4-year residency requirement on people entering Oregon's legal marijuana business. Washington's is 1 year. Why should we cater to outside influence and money trying to horn in on what Oregonians are already doing, says Senator Floyd Brzezinski, Democrat, Eugene. Backers of the law, as approved by voters, say restrictions could cripple local growers' ability to find capital. It would starve the market, says Matt Goldberg, a Lake Oswego lawyer advising marijuana businesses. I don't see how we can be a model for recreational cannabis in the marketplace if the marketplace is going to be restrained in that way. Last week, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, which is preparing to regulate recreational pot, called residency requirements an issue with implications for public safety and economic security. Anthony Johnson, the chief petitioner of Measure 91, has told legal pot backers to expect some residency restrictions. That's not stopping deep-pocketed investors from shopping in Oregon. On March 6th, a commercial real estate investment broker, March 9th, excuse me, a commercial real estate investment broker with the Portland firm Melvin Mark sent an email to multiple growers on behalf of a handful of large global investment funds seeking to buy weed properties. My clients are very well funded, broker Greg Martin wrote, and are willing to pay a premium for dispensary and cultivation sites all over the state. The biggest potential investor in Oregon weed is Privateer Holdings, a Seattle equity firm that has raised $82 million, much of it from PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel. The company runs the dispensary review website Leafly, and last year announced the launch of Marley Natural, a brand of Bob Marley themed Jamaican pot. Privateer has hired the Portland lobbying firm Gallatin Public Affairs, whose clients have included tech companies Uber and Oracle, and the law firm Tonkin Torp. Privateer is hoping lawmakers will craft rules that allow it to help Oregon establish a legitimate professional industry that eliminates the illicit market, says spokesman Zach Houston. We believe that a residency requirement would actually be counterproductive to achieving these goals. Matt Wallstadter says blocking out-of-state investment would leave Oregon growers less able to compete when weed sales become legal in other states. If we don't allow ourselves the ability to scale up, he says, we're just delaying the nightmare scenario, a big boom and bust. Megan Wallstadter, whose Pure Green dispensary currently has 9 employees, would like some investment, but she says it's more important to protect local majority ownership of weed businesses. We don't need people coming in from other states, she says, thinking they can do this better than us.
I think we should do import-export like they do it overseas and stuff, and have Oregon have their own, and in order to get it from other states or have Oregon put it in other states, they should have an import-export business so they can only be done organically, done in Oregon. They're right, we shouldn't have other people come in because Colorado doesn't have people going into theirs, California doesn't have people going into theirs, it's mass production.
The problem is they have to be transporting over state lines, and I think then that would be a federal problem.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Oregon should put in that rules or whatever that we don't want nobody from out of state because technically they would be transporting outside state lines, which would be a federal problem. Since their offices are in Seattle and Washington, they're crossing state lines.
Oh yeah. And this next story is a little longer than we have time for, but I wanted to throw it out there because this is a really hot item. This was on the website cannabisnowmagazine.com, written by Ben Miller, dated March 25th, 2015, titled OLCC warns Oregon not to mix medical and recreational industries.
I got 2 thumbs up on that one.
Last November, Oregon passed the voter-approved Measure 91, making it the 3rd state to legalize the sale and possession of recreational marijuana. Under the new law, residents of the state who are 21 years or older may possess up to 8 ounces of marijuana and own up to 4 plants for their own personal use. All this will go into effect July 1st, 2015. However, like with the other states who have legalized recreational marijuana, the state government must create guidelines and regulations regarding how the products will be sold to the general public. Looking to regulate the substance in a similar way the state treats alcohol sales, the legislature has called upon its Liquor Control Commission to help formulate these new rules. After concluding a number of public opinion listening sessions with the Joint Committee on Implementing Measure 91, in order to gather information regarding how voters would like the new recreational marijuana laws in Oregon to be regulated, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission has issued one of its first statements to the Oregon legislature about its plans for the future of the marijuana industry. The OLCC has issued a warning to the Oregon legislature against allowing medical marijuana and recreational marijuana to be sold from the same stores or locations throughout the state. Because the medical marijuana industry in Oregon doesn't currently regulate the products until it reaches a dispensary. the OLCC is concerned that it may adversely affect the already existing medical marijuana industry. Bob Patridge, chairman of the OLCC, wrote a letter to leaders of the Oregon House and Senate explaining his concern for the unregulated system in place and how it could be inadvertently causing the marijuana black market in the area to swell. Tom Tousley, the interim communications director for the OLCC recreational marijuana program, explains that government authorities assume that some portion of the marijuana grown for medical purposes leaks into the black market. For that reason, an unregulated system could not exist alongside a regulated system for recreational marijuana. Currently, the Oregon Health Authority has jurisdiction over the state's medical marijuana program. Tousley said that there have been discussions within the state about whether to bring both the medical and the recreational programs under the jurisdiction of the OLCC, but they are even wary about this as well. When we asked what we asked the legislator was, if we're going to give the medical marijuana program to the LCC, we'd rather not have it if it's going to be the same unregulated system that feeds the black market, Townsley said. So he goes on, but anyway, that's the gist of it. So at least they're not just handing it over like we kind of have expected it to.
It kind of explains also about that bringing in big business. If the OLCC is against having recreational and medical, that means big businesses won't be able to come into Oregon and do recreational because these guys are against it.
Yep, so we don't know how this is all going to fall out, so, and possibly until October is what I'm hearing. So anyway, well, thanks for checking in, and we hope that you learned something, the information that we put out today. Thanks again for our special guest, and be sure and come by and see us at Monday nights at 7:30 behind Sheldon High School at Community TV 29 Studios, Eugene Cannabis TV. Thanks for watching. Good night.